Shut up and sit down.
This whole gravel thing has taken off. It's such a disruptive trend. It's changed the cycling world as we know it.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. Always remember that you are one ride away from a good mood.
I have a bike. And you don't.
Gravel bikes, by nature, are fairly do-it-all utilitarian machines.
With wheels. I have a bicycle. You don't. I have a bicycle. You won't. I have a bicycle.
When you take away all the weird social discomfort that comes with trying to figure out if you're wearing the right thing or if you look right for the bike that you're riding, more people become interested in riding bikes again. Who'd have thunk it?
What would you say you do here?
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Turing, and I'm here with Lance friggin' Hepler.
Lance mother freaking Hepler.
What's up, friggin' Hepler?
Okay, that was too much. What's up, guys?
It can never be too much.
It's never too much. I missed you guys. I'm glad.
It's been a little
It's good
bit.
to see you.
Same, yeah.
It's been like 2.5 weeks since we've sat down.
Well,
together.
and you've been gone.
I've been gone.
Lots of excuses from all of us,
Yes.
but yeah, we got them. To his right, Sir Ian Gibson.
From maybe too much to often too little. Good morning. It's
There
Ian.
it is. That's pretty good. That was pretty good.
Is that okay?
It's good.
That was solid.
That was good. That's pretty good.
Have to grab
We'll
that
leave
one.
that in.
And last but not least, Mr. Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look feisty today. Looking feisty.
Feisty.
A little bit.
Little bit feisty.
It's
Been too long
a
to have our decompression here. Talk shop.
Talk shop.
Hey, how about we jump right into this and start doing some backpedaling? Mr. Legrand would generally go first. So
I always go first. Let's keep that train rolling.
Yep.
Roll it.
Running every day. Last week I had a really good week, but I think I'm paying the price for it this week. I think there was I did a hard running workout on the trails, running workout, what are we talking about here? Yeah, well, cheers to that.
7-minute pace. Drilling it.
Yeah, I think I was running when I was doing the workout itself. I was like, I'm going fast, and it was 6:30 pace or something. It wasn't like you're like, oh dang, that's too bad.
It's all coming
that's
back, man.
slower than marathon pace,
Right.
from back in the day. But yeah, that's okay. Do something and keep going. And then I did a hard 7-mile run, and then went biking that night and did a beaches ride, which we were just drilling it the whole time, which was awesome because we get out there and we run into the one and only, the mystery man, Evan Price, who's out on the road. And I was like, we're drilling it going one way, and he came by the other way. And I'm like, okay, he can catch us. It's Evan Price. He can just catch us, right? And so we get to the end of the road. He does catch us, and he rides the whole way back with us, which was super nice because, again, we were drilling it. And I'd be like, Evan, pull me back to the group. Because he was like, yeah, this is zone 2 ride, for him. But he could pull me back to the group, and I was just, But I think that was exactly a week from today. And then, I kept running every day and stuff like that. But I think that between the hard running and the hard cycling, I think I'm just overdid it or what. I don't know if I would go so far to say overdid it because who cares? Overdid it for what? But ever since I'm I need easy running, just easy. And it has. I keep waiting for it to come back, and it hasn't. So it's I'm just waiting for a day where I feel I can go a little bit longer, a little bit faster. Just hasn't. I did 3 miles. I'm doing 3 miles easy every day, or 3 to 5 miles easy, and so far so slow. But yeah, and some swimming, and I have some bike computers to test, so I'm really excited about that. And so some more biking to come here in the near future. I did use the Hammerhead Karoo 3.
Okay.
And I still need to do some more testing on it, so it'll be a while before I get a video out on that. But it's still fun to have new tech to test. So,
Nice.
Yep. That's it for me. Backpedal.
Sweet. Gibson.
Yeah, I've been
Around the world.
I've been around the world. I haven't got much to say, really. I have been riding my bike, but I feel like this is really not my race season. It's been quite a few weeks since I pinned on a number. So I've been riding, not really been racing. not really been training. I've just been out on my bike. So it feels like
Having fun.
pre-competition Gibson from several years ago. But I will say, how long has it been? It's been a long time since we sat here. now.
It's been
You went
almost.
to-
So
it's
let
been
me go
3
back
weeks.
3 weeks ago. Of significance, I did go to Mallorca, Spain, which was absolutely awesome.
Was Sacalabra as great as it sounds like it should be? This is the great climb on
Yes.
that island. It
yes,
was good.
it's totally amazing. It's freaking awesome.
guys-
I did
you
come
didn't get to do
in.
last
I did.
I got an invite, but I didn't go with it.
I was
Oh, right,
close to the KOM on Sacalabra. I think I was 55,400 and something fastest on that climb.
Right in there.
You're
Yes.
right.
You gotta
You're drilling it.
You
But-
just lean at the line next time.
I nearly made the
gotta-
top third because that climb has got 150,000 attempts on
Oh
it.
my
Wow.
gosh.
It's absolutely amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And on any given day, there is several hundred people going up there. I mean, the whole of that island, Mallorca, is like, I would say it's like being in a real life Watopia
Oh yeah.
from Zwift. You go past literally thousands of cyclists, like from groups of 20, 30 guys to people on their own to people of all abilities. I mean, I felt pretty strong there. I was passing most people, not
Yeah.
getting past. But the riding is awesome. The weather was great. Sacalabra was everything it's made out to be. Definitely put it on your bucket list.
It's on the list.
It's just the gradient is not super challenging. I mean, it's probably
It's just long and steady.
7-8% at the max. Most of it significantly less than that. But it's all these switchbacks and it's just amazing.
Do you think that's better than what we did on Tenerife? How do they compare, Tenerife and Mallorca?
I think I would go back to Tenerife before I went to Mallorca.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I don't know. I don't think
It
I
was a
don't.
special time between you
It
and me,
was.
Ian. Maybe that's what you're fondly
Well, that's part of it,
remembering.
right? I didn't go with a group. I didn't go with friends. I stayed at a hotel that turned out to be a family hotel, so it was a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably didn't make the right choices there. I basically rode on my own, so it was a different experience. I think if you went back with friends or as part of a group, you'd get to explore more of the island and have a better experience. But I would go back for sure.
Cool.
The thing about Tenerife is that you can go there in the middle of our winter, whereas Mallorca, you really need to be looking at sometime between May and October, I guess.
Yeah.
I've heard. But it's not somewhere you would go in the depths of winter.
Yeah.
Because
Does it get cold?
It's just in the Mediterranean, so it's much further north than Tenerife.
yeah,
Oh,
it's a
gotcha.
crapshoot. It's like
Yeah.
going down to Southern California right in December. It could be good or it could be
Sure.
average.
Gotcha.
It's never really miserable like the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that was that. And then I came back here. My mum's been in town, so I've been hanging out with her and eating and drinking and getting fat, I guess. So,
You look as trim as ever.
thank you.
Hepler,
That's it.
you've been up to some stuff.
I've been up to some stuff. I could talk for an hour about
been up
what
to
I've
some
been up to,
stuff.
but I'm not going to do that.
Let's get the Cliff Notes version. What's up?
Well, okay, so everybody kind of knew, and I kind of made it known that Sister Stampede was my A race for the year. It did not go well for me.
Yeah.
It kind of fell apart for me.
You don't have to win every race, Lance.
You
can't
Yes,
have-
you do, man. I disagree.
It sucks. It sucks that you had the primary race that you wanted didn't work out that well. But
There's a
you've
lot
had
of
great-
factors.
you've
Yeah.
had- you're having a great season,
I'm having a great season. Yes,
and you're still alive to talk
I'm
about it.
I'm still kicking along. Sister Stampede, really big race.
Yep.
There was tons of people there. There were
Good race.
65 people in my field. It had a different start this year than in years past. There was actually it was a road start, like on pavement start.
Wow.
And
No horse lead out?
no horse lead out this year. They changed the start location to the downtown Sisters instead of in the field where it's
Was there
been
a
in the
reason
past.
for that, or is it just
I'm
trying
not-
something new? Or
I think trying something new. I'm not
I
exactly
mean, that's
sure.
kind
what all
of
the
like their
details.
signature was the horse lead out.
There was no horse lead out this year, and I don't know what they're going to do in the future. But it did change the dynamic of the start for me. Because
Now this is a mudslinger event, right?
yes,
Mike Ripley
Budslinger
probably
event.
listens from time to time. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why they changed it. It did make it simpler because we weren't in a private field, you know, but it did complicate the start a little bit because we're all on the course at the same time, all the fields. And so the waves were only split by like 15 seconds. And so there was a ton of traffic on the course. So Sister Stampede, 25-mile course, only like 1,800 feet of climbing. So not a whole lot of climbing. So the fields don't get broken up, but there's a lot of single track. And you catch people from other fields. It's a
great
pretty
course
quickly.
for you, to be honest.
It is because of the single track, but
Technical and not a lot of climbing.
true.
Just a lot of traffic.
But because I start in the fourth wave, I caught all these people. I got in the lead. I got away with Court Johnson, who's not in my field. He's 60 years old. And so the two of us were just drilling it, and we got away from most of our other field within the mile 10 to 15. But we would catch people on the single track, and it was very difficult to pass, and it was difficult to find the spot to pass, and people were doing their own races. That's Sister Stampede. You're going to have traffic. I was in the lead at mile 15. I had a bit of a gap, and I flatted. So I was picking my line really carefully, and I could hear it went immediately. Boom.
There were a lot of people who flatted.
Is
that common for
It's common for Sister Stampede.
What is it that's causing the flats?
Sharp rocks, and you're generally following somebody in single track, and so you just don't see it.
Yeah.
Now I was in front of my group and hopping over something sharp, and
Still caught it.
Yeah. So
you had Cush cores or something?
I had Cush cores. I jumped off immediately because I knew.
Yeah.
Pulled out a plug. I plugged it twice. I hit it with CO2. I got passed by 8 people in my field in that 2 minutes that it took me to fix the flat. Jumped back on, drilled it, immediately passed 5 people back in my age group, and flatted again. It just didn't quite hold.
New flat. Okay, so you just lost pressure through the
I just
the
lost
plugs.
pressure.
All right.
Yeah. So then I pumped it up one more time, and I just kind of limped in. I still ended up 11th in my field, but I needed the win. Turns out there was somebody ahead of me from Boise. I just didn't know who he was or recognize him. He had passed me at some point. I never recognized that he passed me. So I probably would have been second anyway. But anyway, I was super frustrated after that race. I was really pissed. I was really pissed about it. I'd put a lot of effort in that race, and there were just stuff happens. You have mechanicals, you have issues, and I try not to be. It's just racing. It doesn't.
You don't race in a vacuum, my friend.
No,
stuff happens.
and so
it's really hard.
I didn't sleep that night at all. I couldn't sleep. My mind was just racing, and you have those times where. And we were right directly on the road to Kansas afterwards, straight from Central Oregon, headed to Kansas.
I was going to say, there was another sort of small mom and pop type event happening out there out on the plains.
No one's ever heard of it. I think it's called Lost Bound.
Yeah, so I went straight to Kansas. We took a couple days to get out there. I managed to lose my Wahoo computer on the way.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I stopped to do a gravel ride on some really cool little canal in Nebraska.
You put it somewhere.
I left it on the rear bumper as I was packing the bike and drove away and lost my Wahoo.
How long until you realized it?
Not till I was in Kansas to do a pre-ride.
Damn it.
Like 5 hours away, 5 hours later. And I'm like, where's my freaking... Oh, my gosh, I left it on the bumper. You stupid idiot.
It was the Rome V2?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was the Bolt V2. I like the smaller one.
Okay. You like the smaller one?
I like the smaller one.
So you're going to just pick up another one of those? Or you can try something different?
I picked up another one because I like it a lot.
Okay.
So
good on you.
So you had one to race with then?
No, Unbound is sponsored by Garmin. There wasn't a Wahoo in the freaking place.
No way. Wahoo was not there at all?
Wahoo was not there.
That seems odd to me.
My guess is they weren't allowed to be there because it was sponsored by Garmin, is my guess. Because every other major company was there. The expo was on point. It was gigantic.
Yeah.
Everybody was there. But Wahoo was not there.
It's arguably like one of the best cycling conventions, if you want to call it that.
It's like Interbike for gravel racing.
Yeah, it's like
I
Sea Otter.
I wouldn't even minimize it for gravel. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's like Interbike, period.
Well, there
it's
were
just so much. There's so many companies. I had so many companies that are just like, you going to be there?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Anyway, so I couldn't find a Wahoo there. So
That's weird.
I stole my wife's. She had a version 1 Roam, and I'm like, I have to reprogram this, honey, and use this. And she's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
So I used my wife's.
So you don't mind having the V1?
So I used the V1. It just didn't have the features I'm used to, but it's just a bike computer.
You like the lighter weight.
I like the lighter weight, and I like the colors that you get on the version 2 with like your heart rate and power. It's easy to look down and not have to look at numbers and just. We're all getting older.
For our old eyes.
Our eyes don't work as
Gotta
well.
be able
you
to-
can see a color and know kind of where you're at.
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Yeah. And the Climb Pro, the
Yes.
Climb version works better with colors and the map. Blah blah blah. Anyway,
Blah, blah.
Unbound was incredible.
You did
this
the
year.
hundo.
I did the 100. It was actually 108 miles.
Okay.
Being in town, being there with all the pros and all the people and I had an incredible experience this year. Last year, the race itself kind of sucked. This year, the race was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so each year they do one year they go to the north, one year they go to the south.
They
Is
do
that how it goes?
They do 2 years north and then
Oh,
2 years
okay.
south, and then that's kind of the way they do it.
Okay.
And the north course tends to be a little chunkier, a little more technical.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the gravel race goes, it is not freaking technical at all. But it tends to be more technical. And everybody was worried about the weather because there were thunderstorms coming through for the few days before. Mud was a huge issue last year. Everybody had a paint stick in their pocket. You use those wood paint sticks to clear mud. I mean, they were giving them away at the expo. I had an Envy branded paint stick, So
Smart for those companies to
Right,
be like,
so-
here you go. Here's what you need.
And it turned out that there was no rain, there was no wind, there was cloud cover until like 2 in the afternoon. The weather was like perfect. So conditions were really fast. So everybody was moving really fast.
So people are going fast. You were drilling it probably.
Yeah, I did the 100-mile course. I thought I had a pretty good shot at making the podium in the 50 to 59 year age group. There were 390 men in the 50 to 59 year age group.
In the 100-miler.
In the 100-miler. Now, there's always a lot of flats there, and part of the reason there's a lot of flats is because it's a freaking road race on gravel. There aren't. It's like a spring classic where the gravel roads are pretty wide and big.
Yeah.
And so you can cook. So you're in a group of 50 people, and people get flats because there's rocks pinballing between the bikes.
right,
You don't
right,
see
right.
them coming. You just hear this ding dong, ding, bing. Rocks bouncing between.
I hate that
and then
noise.
ba-doom,
I mean, it's kind of a cool noise if it wasn't for you realizing that it's just like, oh, rocks are hitting carbon fiber. This is just
Right.
you hear it and you're like, oh, I hate that noise.
Right. And so when we get closer to a B road, a more difficult section, the pace would jump up. People were trying to be first or second or in the top 5 to go
Really?
into the harder section. So
Like a real road race.
yeah, so like a real road race. I was able to stay with the leaders, the front group, for 30 miles, where we were averaging 24 miles an hour on gravel.
Wow.
So no big climbs at
Which bike
Unbound.
did you use?
I used the Envy Mog,
With
my
your
23 Envy Mog.
You got the Envy bike with your Envy paint stick.
Yes.
So it all came together.
Yes. So,
Matchy
but
matchy.
it turns out, I mean, I raced really well.
Yeah.
I made it 85 miles before I started to kind of not feel that good, and that was very different than the year before. But I ended up finishing in 5 hours and 45 minutes or something.
Fast.
So I did 100 miles in 5:10 on gravel.
That's like my Iron Man pace.
Right. It was really fast. And
That's crazy.
I ended up 75th overall,
Not bad.
in the whole race, and I ended up, I think, 12th in my age group. So I didn't make the podium. I was a little frustrated.
You got to think the top cyclists. I mean, your age group is probably very competitive, and the top cyclists are gonna in the country are gonna go to that race.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are into gravel biking, you're gonna go.
It was pretty incredible to be there. I went with 2 teammates, David Barna and Chris Surratt. They both had great races. That made the trip for me to be with my teammates. I finished the 100 in time that I was able to live watch the men's finish and live watch the women's finish at the finish line. I met a whole bunch of pros. I got to have conversations, and I recorded little video clips with a bunch of pros. And I haven't done anything with it yet because I've been doing other crap.
Yeah.
But Chris Surratt, he had a bad crash the year before. He was hoping to break 14 hours, and he almost broke 12 hours.
Whoa.
It's a slight improvement.
Yes.
Well, a lot of it's the course and conditions.
A lot of it is course and conditions, but he's
just a beast.
paced it really well.
Isn't the general consensus, though, that the North Course is more difficult?
It's chunkier.
Yeah.
So not necessarily more difficult, but with no wind and relatively cool temperatures, it was only like 82 degrees. It wasn't 95 like last year. And no rain or mud to deal with. It was just faster.
Well, he did it 2 years ago, not last year. What were his conditions like?
It was super hot that day.
Was that-
He was 14 and a half hours 2 years ago on the same course. And so he did it. He was 2.5 hours faster.
That's fantastic.
Than 2 years ago. And some of that was course, and some of that was better prepared, and he was better prepared for the heat. And
Chris is on great form this year, right? I mean, he's bounced
amazing.
back not just from his accident last year, but the year before. You know,
correct.
he wasn't as fast as he'd been in the past, but now he's
able to
really-
bounce back from injury.
Definitely.
Yes.
We need to call him up.
Yeah, we should.
Somebody call that guy.
I shared a really cool moment with Chris because I was able to like be in the finish shoot when he finished, and he was really emotional and I was really emotional, and we were just like hugging and crying like a couple of like old dudes that love each other. It was
Nice.
It was a really cool moment that I shared with Chris. So it was just really cool to be there and experience that with them, and to be there with his family, and we're all hanging out all week. It was just fantastic.
That's awesome.
David Barna was also there. He started a little hot and kind of cooked himself.
Oh, it's tough.
And I don't know if you saw my finish line video of him.
I did. That did not look good.
No.
I'm watching him and I'm going, he is going to crash, I think. I think he might fall over. And then all of a sudden people are running in to kind of like gather him up. And sure enough, he was spent, but I think it was his back.
His back had locked up on him, and I can't believe he made it to the finish line. He finished in like 12 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So he actually finished really fast too. But two ladies caught him at the finish line while I'm sprinting down the finish chute to like help. I was trying to take a video, and then I dropped my phone because like, oh my gosh, he's not really okay. I need to get there. And I get there. We actually had to lift him off his bike. He couldn't get off his bike. So we actually had to lift him off his bike, and paramedics came over, and he ended up being fine. But
yeah, there's a picture you posted as well of him laying on his back on the ground, kind of like just out. Well, not like out cold, but just like he looked kind of done. And there's like 4 or 5 paramedics
three
around him.
paramedics around him. He's got all this, heart rate material.
Yeah, he was saying that because I talked to him since then, and he said that he was on a wide open gravel road in the middle of the country, and he said it was it took all of his ability to keep himself from hitting like mailboxes on the side of the road because he was having a hard time keeping the bike going straight.
He's just weaving.
Yeah. Like, dude, talk about perseverance.
I can't believe he finished it. To be honest with
fantastic.
you,
Yeah.
it was pretty amazing. So
Be safe out there, people.
to share that with these guys and to be there and to like just feel the atmosphere of Kansas and Emporia and all the pros, and the men's race was incredible and the women's race was incredible. I won't go over that here because it's been beaten to death in cycling.
What happens if you can't finish? If you're 50 miles from it,
You've got a SAG support
Nowhere.
that'll
What-
pick you up.
There is a SAG support.
You have to have a cell phone with you on this race, and you have to have somebody designated to call to rescue you if you need rescue.
okay.
So, and he had Brandy.
Because with all those thousands of entrants, I
hard to
mean,
get.
to get a SAG vehicle must be almost impossible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is impossible. There was almost 5,000 racers in amongst the different levels. So yeah, tons of racers out there. You actually have to have your own SAG support. There's no neutral support at this race other than water, which is weird. There's no the course isn't marked, which is also
I got a question
weird.
for you. How much does an entry fee cost?
I think it was like $250 or
Times
something like that.
5,000
Times
people,
5,000
and all
people.
they're giving you is some water. And I'm sure that they're selling all of these expo entries and getting sponsorships. I mean, they probably do a pretty good job of keeping their overhead somewhat low.
Yeah.
Lifetime is killing it.
Yeah, they're killing it. Now, they put some money into production, into being there. We all got big finishers, medals, and you know, whatever. But all
It's
this
good
things,
marketing for them, though.
They
Yes.
could probably even charge more than $250.
they actually had helicopters following both the men's race and the women's race.
Wow.
So
Like getting video, or was it for support?
it was video.
Okay.
Yeah, it
so
like
Flow Sports wasn't doing it?
commentators. No, this is Lifetime doing their own production.
Oh.
Yeah, I watched it.
So they had 2 helicopters, one for the women, one for the men, with commentators in the helicopter watching and giving, plus commentators on side-by-sides, on 4x4s, following the course and getting video there as well.
Wow.
So they actually had live Instagram feeds hooked to satellite coverage so that you could watch like the last 30 miles of the race. They like live streamed like the last 30 miles of the front of the race too. So you could kind of watch it all. So
Didn't
they stepped
didn't
all
they
that.
have issues with like the women's final live stream? I can't remember. Someone was like,
Yeah, it cut out.
Yeah.
The last 500 meters cut out, so you actually didn't see the sprint finish because the side by side couldn't go down the finishing chute, and it ended up being a women's sprint. It was a
and it was-
9-person
yeah, that's what I was
women's
saying,
sprint.
9 people, right? That's
Yeah.
yeah. Whereas
So-
the guys was down to 2.
The guys was down to two. You know, Lachlan Morton and Chad Haga. Chad Haga is legit.
Legit.
So he just retired from his World Tour days. He's done like 12 Grand Tours.
Wow.
He's, and he's now like moving into gravel.
Yeah.
And he showed up with the team that changed the dynamic of the men's race quite a bit. Anyway, I could totally get into a whole thing about
Don't worry.
teams.
We will.
So
That's my hot seat question.
we're not doing hot
Oh, wait.
seat.
We're not doing hot seat. Save that for the next.
Coming to a future podcast.
Yeah,
near you.
save that
to
for
a
another
future
podcast.
podcast.
I'll have a different hot seat by the next time we do a hot seat question.
So I loved being there this year. I really enjoyed it. Am I going to go back? Probably not.
you
But I've said that about lots of races this year that I'm going back to do.
What did David and Chris have to say about going back?
They both said we've scratched that itch. We're done with this. I've accomplished what I've wanted to accomplish. But freaking being in town and being there,
It's an experience, yeah.
It's the Midwest is so like accepting.
We should
like
we should go and do the shortest possible ride.
there's a 25 miler,
and then just like party.
yes,
Ah.
there, even a 50 miler wouldn't be.
Yeah, it'd be
it
fine.
would be fun.
And you could cruise it
yes,
and have fun. And because I
Yes.
mean, like you can race it, but like, or you could just go like cruise it and have fun, and then like do all the expo stuff and
there was a
Cheer
there
and-
was a Gravel Hall of Fame induction
Yeah.
ceremony that my wife and I went to, and we saw all
the
these
photographer
people
or something?
and yeah, Linda Garrett, and there was a few other legit people. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, I had so much fun there this year, more than I expected I would. Meeting the people from Envy, meeting the people from Bike Flights, meeting the people from from Factor, having conversations with all these industry insiders. Having a conversation with Lachlan Morton on the sidewalk, talking to Pete Stetina about mustaches. It was just a really, it was really cool. Yeah, I had a really good time. So anyway, I'm gonna completely shut up. From there, we went to Moab and
did family.
with the family. I had a phenomenal week with the family,
That's
and then
awesome.
just buried myself physically while I was
Did you? I was gonna say, did you just stop biking? Because you could. After that, you could take a week off of biking.
Yes,
You could.
I could, but
Or
like one day I went to do a mountain bike ride. Like I
Yeah.
was going to do like an hour-long mountain bike ride, and I got back to the campsite, and my whole family had left. They'd gone into town, and we were 15 miles outside of town. I'm like, where are you? And they're like, we're here at this canyon. Come here. And I'm like, okay. So I rode my bike all the way there. Anyway, I ended up being like 3 hours out in the 98-degree heat, and then was not well for a couple days after that. Anyway, I had a great time, but
your kids doing well?
my kids they're all doing great.
That's awesome.
Everybody's doing great. My wife and I had our 30th anniversary.
Well, that's
It was just a party. I had a blast with my kids. Look at my Instagram things. You'll see all the fun crap we did on the river and stuff. So
His Instagram is Dr. Hep.
At freaking Hepler. You gotta change it, dude.
Dr. Hep. I need to change it.
Yeah.
At DRHEPP, Dr. Hep. Yeah.
Check it out. It is worth a follow. It's fun. Good
It's
things.
fun.
You can
So
find good
anybody
things.
that was on the fence that wasn't quite sure that they hated you can now kind of
Yes.
put that to rest and say, I really
You definitely do hate me.
hate Lance. Yeah.
Too much fun. Anyway, I'm back now, kind of, for a couple weeks. Then I'm leaving
The
again.
real question, you're back, but do we have any like sports reporters in the area? Are there any sports reporters? No, there's no sports reporters of any sort.
No.
Okay.
Okay, Champ is here.
What?
There has been a whole lot of bike racing happening. I know nothing about any of it. World's worst sports cycling reporter. I know very little. Actually, the Dauphiné actually ended up being really exciting. I don't know if you watched any of it.
I did not.
Primoz Roglic ended up winning it, but just barely over Matteo Jorgensen, who was like a minute behind him, but put 50 seconds into him on the final stage. He out sprinted him at the line and almost won the whole Dauphiné. Jorgensen is freaking killing it this year.
looking pretty legit.
He won Paris-Nice.
Did he win? I know he won some stages, but did he win overall?
I think he won
Wouldn't
Paris-Nice.
surprise me. Yeah.
Actually, I really don't know. I should look that up.
Maybe we need to
But-
put him in our. Are we going to do some sort of
Selection for
fantasy team?
We'll have
Yep,
to
I
do-
just got the email notification
Yeah.
from them. It's time to get it
Time
set
to
up.
do that.
So
Okay.
stay tuned.
So yeah, the Tour de Suisse is happening right now. I have no idea what's happening there. What other big stuff happened? I don't know. Anyway, it was just that. I mean, everybody's ramping up, getting ready for
Le Tour.
Le Tour de France, so which is coming in a few weeks.
Any word on how Jonas Vingegaard and Wout van Aert are doing?
They're
Remco
both
Evenepoel?
so Jonas and Wout are both still in a bit of a fitness hole from
Deficit,
their
yep.
wrecks,
Yep.
and they're still trying to recover. They're both trying to desperately get ready for
They're
the
training
tour.
together at
They are
altitude right
training
now.
together at altitude. I think they're in the Sierra Nevada in Spain, trying to prep themselves for that. Remco Evenepoel. I was gonna say.
Revenpool. Just combine it. It works. It kind of works.
Remco Evenepoel kind of sucked at the Dauphiné.
That's what I was. Yeah. Well, he was in second for a while, right?
He was in second for a while. He won the time trial, and then he lost like 2.5 minutes on like one climb one day.
Yeah.
So he's kind of still a question mark.
You don't think he'll do the tour? You think he'll?
No,
drop?
he'll do the tour. I just don't know if he'll be
competitive.
one of the big four.
He hasn't proven himself
Big-
yet to be a GC guy.
No.
So at
But
least for a Grand Tour.
he could easily go for stages.
Yeah.
In time trials. I don't know. I've got to look at the schedule again, but
So Tadej Pogacar is looking freaking unbeatable at the moment after crushing the Giro. You know,
don't you think Roglic is the second front runner at this point? That's
Maybe.
my gut feeling is
Because-
that he could.
Although Roglic, he still crashed
Yep.
at Paris-Nice. Of
course.
He crashed. He hurt his shoulder so much that he couldn't reach into his back pocket.
Yes, I read that. He still won.
He still
and he's like,
won?
Well, my legs were okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like,
That's
okay.
basically what he said.
Oh, that's funny.
So, I mean, it's still kind of a big question mark. So, the tour is going to still be as exciting and fun as watch to ever. It really is Tadej's to lose, is my thought at this point.
Yeah. I
So-
think, he'll probably be in a couple people's fantasy teams. He's going to be like, all of the points that it takes to buy a rider will be like, that's how much he's going to cost.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to be like, well, you still have to buy it. You got to have this rider.
So pretty exciting that, what's happening there and all those things. I think it would be good to say that, Keegan Swenson lost Unbound. He actually ended up 14th.
Wow.
So, he's been the favorite at all these races for a long time, but he was a marked man at this race. Yeah. And that really helped Lachlan Morton, who ended up winning, get away. So Chad Haga showed up with 4 teammates.
Which is my question. Do you think that teams are going to start to start to play
Look,
more and more of a role
there is-
in races like Unbound.
There is
That was my hot secret.
money
Yes.
and exposure and fame
Yep.
with gravel racing. So yes, it is going to just get more and more professional. Air quotes.
Going to kill the sport, though.
I don't think it will kill the sport
It'll
because
just kill people that
kill the
aren't on a
spirit, though.
team.
Yeah.
it will change it a little bit.
Yeah.
It changed it this year a little bit. There won't be one guy winning every single race like Keegan has. But in order to have a team, your teammates have to be willing to sacrifice their own races.
Right.
And Keegan has had that with Tobin Ortenblad. Tobin actually sat at the front of Unbound for the first 60 miles and put, tempo to kind of try to he shot his own race down to try to give Keegan a chance. But Chad Haga, time trial national champion and legit racer, but he had 4 teammates with him who were all willing to do the same thing. This team Pas Normal, Pass Normal, I don't know how. It's a clothing company from Europe, but they had 5 teammates there. They ended up taking 2nd, 3rd, and 6th overall.
Wow.
I think it's inevitable that there's going to be more teamwork at the pro level, at the pro maybe 1-2 level. So as spectators, you'll see your gravel races change, right? But as participants at the amateur level, riding masters type of level, it really won't. It's
won't.
just like
Yes,
we
true.
have teams right now, but when you get down into the sort of Cat 2, 3, 4 Masters 50, 60, it rarely becomes a team victory or
Yes, correct.
team tactics don't come into it. It's just your experience as a gravel racer, as a participant. I don't think it's going to
No, that
change
won't
at
change.
all.
That's a really good point.
It's not under threat.
It's a definitely good point. I think from a spectator looking at it as a sport where you're looking at the top athletes, that's where I think, well, this might be very
Okay.
different next year than it is this year.
Was Unbound less exciting to watch this year? No.
Maybe more so.
Maybe more exciting to watch this year because there wasn't one person off the front, just crushing it. It was 2 guys.
Friend of the podcast, Dylan Johnson, I think he was 10th.
10th overall, yeah.
He was 10th overall and 2nd in the Lifetime Grand Prix athletes. He had the freaking race of his life.
Good for him.
He crushed it. He felt great. So
It's
pretty
interesting because
exciting.
he's one of those guys that won't have a team theoretically unless some of these guys that don't have teams come together or something for next year. I mean, they're going to have to plan this stuff in advance. You're not going to be able to show up on race day and figure it out.
Well, Chad Haga with these teammates,
Right.
Keegan was a marked guy. So
Yeah.
eventually at mile 130, Chad Haga was in a break with one other guy, and he was a minute up the road, and Lachlan Morton was able to bridge to him.
Yeah.
So now it's Lachlan Morton and Chad Haga. They're a minute off the front, and Chad Haga had 3 teammates in the chase,
Right.
which was 20 guys. There's only 20 guys left, and he had 3 teammates there. So what do they do with 3 teammates? Somebody tries to make a move, teammate jumps on it, but nobody's going to make a move. Why? Because it's Keegan's job to pull that back.
Right.
Keegan's the favorite,
Right.
So they all look at Keegan. You want to, and Keegan's like, "Are we just going to let them get away?" And they're like, "It's up to you to pull this back. It's on you." So Keegan would pull, and everybody would jump right. And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to just pull everybody right back." And they ended up.
That cycling, buddy.
It worked.
I mean, yeah.
It worked.
He also had a spill, though.
Yeah, so
okay.
with about 20 miles to go, Keegan had a moment where we all have occasionally. He just crossed wheels with Finsty and went down. That was it. He didn't blow out on a corner, which is what I thought happened. No, he just crossed wheels with Russell Finsterwald, hit the deck. They were going very fast, split his elbow wide open. And he couldn't get back to the group after that. That's why he ended up 14th. So and he wasn't with the group that
I
sprinted
think
it
next
out.
year, I bet we see a different strategy from him. I bet he comes in with
He'll
people.
need more teammates, but he needs legit teammates like Tobin Ortenblad, who was actually willing to sacrifice his race at Leadville this last year and Unbound this year for Keegan. So there's got to be some.
Do they have an official team that they're on? Because I thought he was more of a privateer.
there's
Part of
they're-
the Santa Cruz kind of.
They're called the Hit Squad.
Okay.
And it's just him and Tobin and Alexis Scarta. There's only 3 of them, and
Okay.
she's a woman, so
You know, he's looking to recruit some people.
and maybe they will. I mean, it's
He
Santa
needs people
Cruz.
like, you know, like Dylan Johnson. Like he needs people of that caliber where it's like, hey, this person can come in and he's not going to win.
most
but
of those privateers aren't
free agents.
Aren't free agents.
Yeah, if I was Dylan, I wouldn't like join his little squad unless
No.
it was going to be
Well, what
very,
if it
very
was
financially beneficial.
yeah, financially-
Unless, yes,
Otherwise, he wants to go out there and
Doing
race for
his thing.
himself. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, so
correct. So that's going to change that
well,
front.
And I also
15,
can,
20
you can
people.
imagine more and more pro Peloton guys shifting into gravel because, like you said, that's where the attention is. That's where visibility is. And those guys are probably willing to work some for other people. So maybe there's an influx of traffic of talent.
So let's talk about that. Mateo Mahoric came to the race. So Mateo is the reigning gravel world champion, right? He won the gravel world championships. That was it Italy? Was it Spain? No, it was
was in Europe.
It was
Yep.
in Europe last year. And he won. And the
it
European
was
gravel
in
roads are
Italy.
very different than the North Kansas roads. And he came over behind Victoria's. They all came over, and he brought 2 teammates with him specifically to be his domestique in the race. Now, they all ended up flatting out and not finishing the race. I mean, they made it like 100 miles, but it didn't work out for them. But it drew him to that race. Greg Van Avermaet was there. He actually took like 7th overall. He actually was in it. So, and
he was in the same group with Dylan Johnson and
Correct.
just out sprinted him at the end. Yeah.
correct.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was like a 5-person
think he
sprint or
got-
something.
He got called out at one point because he wasn't closing a gap, and he didn't want to close the gap because the race was coming to the end. And I don't know if it was Dylan or Payson said, Greg, you've won Paris-Roubaix. You're a world championship. Close down that gap. And he just like glared at him and closed it down. So,
That's funny.
There's stories like that all over the place. And Greg Van Avermaet took it a little bit more seriously. He's retired from the World Tour.
yeah.
But, and Mateo Mahoric has not retired. He is still,
Active.
He's still active, but it's going to pull people into this. It's getting big enough and enough exposure. And that race specifically, Unbound, it's just, the whole gravel world is just converged right there. And so people come.
I wonder too if it like comes down to timing. Like you have a lot of the guys that would do well in an event like that are potentially spring classic people. They're people that do well at Grand Tours. But if the timing of this race was like in the fall when there's like nothing else going on for these guys,
Cyclocross happening.
Do you
Well,
see
I'm just saying.
teams like Jumbo Visma or not Jumbo Visma,
Visma
Lisa
Lisa
Bike, or any other pro Peloton team that's got a big team like EF has a team and that Sue Laughlin's racing for. But do you see them sending more of maybe their second tier guys or say, hey, you're going to show up and you're going to represent the team at this race now?
I don't know. That could happen because
think it's just a matter
Laughlin
of time, to
really
be honest with you.
isn't. Laughlin's on his own program. He is on EF Education, but they give him full autonomy to do whatever the hell he wants.
He takes full advantage of that. So.
And he kept his like World Tour license for the last couple years.
Oh, did he?
But this year he did not. He didn't, because they could have called him up and said, "Hey, we need you in the Giro." 3 other guys have backed out or they're injured, and they've given him enough autonomy now that he didn't have to do that this year. So
he's big enough that he doesn't.
I don't think there's enough money in it compared to European World Tour cycling for these big teams to.
Well, I was going to say that it's not, right now it's not as relevant for those team sponsors like Jumbo, Lisa Bike. Their marketing to their markets are in Europe, so. Even though there is coverage now of the big gravel races in the US over in Europe, it still perhaps doesn't make sense to send a big squad and all the investment and the money that goes into that.
There's a lot of
doesn't make
eyeballs
sense.
over in Europe watching that race, though.
Yeah,
so.
it's becoming that
yeah.
way. So if
It's just a matter of time, if you ask me.
once
but,
that audience grows, I'm sure those bigger teams will seek that exposure. And
Okay, but look at the coverage too. Okay, so Unbound had the best coverage they've had at a big race ever, and it sucks compared to the European cycling coverage.
Right.
You can watch every second of the Tour de Suisse in a stage that nobody cares about. And so for your sponsors, that's way better for World Tour races in Europe than the exposure you're going to get for going to Unbound.
I hated the Unbound coverage. I watched that show, and it's just the way they edited it and the way they put in all the dramatic music and drumming in the background. And
This is during the actual.
stuff.
I haven't watched.
Yeah, it's just like
So Unbound's doing, so Lifetime is doing something different this year. They're putting out an hour-long recap show 48 hours post-race. Last year, they waited like 8 months before they were able to produce for each race. And this year, they're putting it out in 48 hours.
it looks like some typical Discovery Channel drama documentary BS.
Speaking of which, I saw there's like
production,
Unchained too. Like then there's
Unchained
another
has
Netflix.
already come out.
That was I don't know.
Is it out?
Just,
It's
it just
out.
like
Oh, I gotta
just
watch
came out
that.
like yesterday
Okay.
or something. Like
2 days ago.
Yeah,
Unchained
recently.
was
So
released.
look at it from this perspective, though. It sounds like Lifetime is throwing some money at the production of this thing.
Yes.
And that is them taking a step in that direction to try and draw in more people, which is going to draw more sponsors, which is going to draw in more money, which is going to grow the actual race itself. And it's just a matter of time before they're able to kind of maybe not necessarily get up to par with Europe, but like be able to produce something that people are going to want to watch, and it's going to start to attract
well,
some of these
plus
bigger
you
teams.
and I know like production costs are dropping. I mean, if we're talking about getting a helicopter, that's still crazy, but like drones are getting better and cameras are getting better and all the things like satellite systems for moving information, it's all getting better. 10 years from now, we're going to have good coverage of Unbound.
And definitely, if
Theoretically.
it's a lot of teamwork involved, it makes it more interesting. Like, who wants to watch a 200-mile
Nobody.
race of guys
Race
just
of
duking
attrition,
it out
yeah.
individually? When you've that's why we do watch Paris-Roubaix and those big
Dynamics, yep.
things, because we're interested in the team dynamics and the tactics and the strategy. and so
But that's a 5-hour race or a 6-hour race,
Yeah.
not a freaking 10-hour race. So a little bit different.
Hey, let's put a pin in this. I want to get into our topic because I know Matt's got to get going here pretty soon, and I want to get some of his
Oh my
insight
It's
before
so
he
easy.
has to bounce.
So easy for us to be like, in an hour goes like that.
We're
Yep.
just yapping.
Hey, have you guys ever hurt yourself before?
No.
No? Lance, you ever? No?
Yes. All the time.
Yes. Have you haven't had a crash in the past? I mean,
Not of consequence.
You better start
good.
knocking on stuff and crossing things. And
I haven't gone down hardly at all this year. My bike handling skills are just improving just a little bit, I think.
Lance will be in the hospital next week.
Yeah.
All right, here's the question. How do you guys return from injury? What is your process? How can somebody, or what would you suggest to somebody that's returning from injury? And let's say that they're healthy enough
With
to get
anger.
back with anger. So
vengeance.
Vengeance.
just give me like your story of like, maybe your biggest injury that you had to return from and how long you were out and what that process was like and what worked well for you.
Okay, well, I've obviously had Achilles surgeries multiple times, and the older you get, the longer it takes to come back, unfortunately. My suggestion for anyone that's listening to this particular podcast and trying to figure out recovery from a major injury would be go slow, go out slow, and then go slower. So reduce mileage, reduce pace, and just like go into it knowing that like you can't let that, they always think of like, talk about like the devil in your shoulder whispering, oh, you're still that guy. Ignore that. Go slow and then slow down. Because you always want to take those turns fast. You always want to hammer. And it's just like, oh, then you get into a situation where you're setting yourself back.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Ian?
Well, I've had injuries and surgeries and stuff in the past, knee injury through skiing, back injury, surgery there. But the worst I ever did to myself in a bike race was separating my shoulder, and that was in Vancouver Criterium in the last corner. Just jumping up for the sprint, I washed out in a corner, went down on the ground. I think, initially it's sort of disbelief or denial. I remember getting up off my bike and getting on it, straightening the handlebars up, realizing that it was unrideable and running across the finish line and thinking, I'm banged up and scraped and I'm bleeding. But it wasn't until I got to the first aid lady that she says, "Oh yeah, you've separated your shoulder or you've broken your collarbone." I'm like, "No, you couldn't."
The adrenaline was still there.
Adrenaline was still there. And then as you start to realize that that's probably the end of your season, you go into a sort of a panic mode where you think, how am I ever going to cope with this? How this has been my whole life. Everything that I'm working towards, everything is involved with my fitness. That's who I am. So you have this tremendous sense of panic. Like, how the hell am I going to deal with this? And that is the big component. In the end, it all comes down to your mental health, I think, and how you deal with things. So this injury, in the end, didn't turn out to be that bad. I didn't need surgery. Apparently, you rarely do have surgery on a separated shoulder.
It's an AC joint, right?
Yeah,
Same
even
thing
though
for you, Matt?
I did go to the ER at Mount Hood Legacy there in Troutdale, and there's a couple of doctors that tried to put it back in, so they didn't know that.
Oh, geez.
I'm confused. They were wrestling with my arm, and I was going through all kinds of pain, and it turns out that they had the complete wrong injury, I guess. Anyway.
Reducing something that doesn't need to be reduced, just causing pain.
Yeah, exactly. But then, the realization hits like, okay, I can deal with this. This is a transitory thing. So the physical rehabilitation takes a while. The mental thing, I think I got over it quicker. I got to that stage where I knew what was wrong. I knew the extent of the injury. I had a good idea of the timeline, how long it was going to take to get back on. And I just got on with it. In a way, it was liberating. You could, again, you were bouncing back from the bottom and seeing yourself make progress week by week.
How long were you off the bike?
I was back on my bike on Swift riding with one hand within 3 days.
Okay.
And I think I was actually on my bike riding outside in 2 weeks after that.
Okay, so that's not terribly bad. Do you think it took you longer to get back on the bike after, say, I don't know if you're riding at the time, but when you had your knee surgery or your back surgery, were you riding then?
I was, but I wasn't riding competitively.
Gotcha.
So, that was a lot more a bigger deal. So, my injury turned out to be relatively minor, but I guess the point I'm making is at that time when you don't know, it feels like your life has just fallen apart.
Sure. I think that you mentioned this kind of too, but like when you have after the injury, like when you have a plan, there's like some like comfort with that. Where it's like, I have a plan, follow this plan, get back into the groove of whatever it is.
Right.
It's like, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I'm going to attack this.
Previously to that, you were at the peak of your fitness, and so you were making very little changes to your fitness. You'd already gotten to a certain level, and so you were just sort of maintaining and trying to eke out a few gains here and there. But then when you're injured, guess what? You can go from nothing back to health, and so it's kind of rewarding to not enjoy that journey.
Enjoy the journey, for sure.
There's some satisfaction in embarking on that journey, I guess. But the biggest thing for me was not the physical pain. There was plenty of that, but it was the mental thing, like trying to relabel yourself somehow. Like say, there's more to my life than racing bicycles at the moment, even though it seemed devastating at the time. I mean, once you
Lance, you've had a couple injuries. The most notably would be probably your back, and then the time that you crashed coming off the Palomar Mountain when you fractured your hip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which one? Well, I'm guessing. I'm not guessing. I know which one was worse for you, but which one was worse for you, and how did you bounce back from those?
Well, the back injury was worse.
Yeah, by far. Yeah,
it changed my entire life actually, because I wasn't retired at the moment. I realized I couldn't effectively do dentistry the same way after the back injury.
Sure.
And so
I want you to talk to my brother-in-law. He's having like all kinds of issues, and he's a dentist, and it's just like it's remarkably similar to your story.
It's a very common story in dentistry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm like, dude, life is not just life. It's like life is way better because of the decisions that you made. You know, even though like this was a tough situation, like your life's pretty awesome.
But I completely lucked out financially to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So luck or kind of hazard planning.
Yeah.
You know, I was able to kind of come off of that. Okay. So I think that made a difference because my life is significantly better, but my earning potential went down significantly when I hung up, took the shingle
That's a
down.
good point. For so many people, it's not, you have a physical injury like that and it can be devastating financially. People,
Right.
People have wiped out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long were you off the bike? How long were you disconnected from cycling and training and the whole bit?
With the back injury, I was off like 6 months, I believe. I'm having a hard time remembering it because it was like 7 years ago. And I barely remember that I'd lost my bike computer, 2 weeks ago. So I was out for quite a while, and it took me. My biggest symptom was that my right foot quit working properly after the back
drop
injury.
foot,
I have drop foot on my right side, and that still hasn't resolved. So
It got better though.
It got better.
Not like all the way better, but it got tremendously better from where it was at one point in time.
I had about 10%. Like it worked about 10% compared to the other foot. I can lift my left foot all the way up, and I could only lift my right foot like 10% up. And now it's at like 50%. So I can lift it a little bit more, but that's as good as it's ever going to get. It won't recover any more than that. So according to the neurosurgeons that I spoke
Those
with
guys
about
don't know what they're talking about.
Stupid neurosurgeons.
So you retired. You said, I'm just going to go play bikes now, and you jumped back on the bike. What was that process like for you? And what tips would you throw out there for people that maybe are coming off being off the bike for a sustained, prolonged period of time?
The biggest tip that I would say the same thing that Matt said, but I could not do it, which is take it slow, take it easy, just ease into it. I freaking didn't do that. I was my doctor's and my physical therapist's like worst nightmare. They're like, Hepler, you need to take it easy. And I'm like, shut up, you don't own me.
There's a KOM that I tried to get in the car on the way over here.
Look, I can still pedal a bike because the rest of my leg works fine. I just can't like lift my right.
Did you cause
foot
any
this side.
damage or make anything worse, or did you just like maybe slow down the normal trajectory of the healing
I think
process?
I slowed down the normal trajectory of the healing process by trying to do too much, thinking I can do this. I know my body. I'm going to be okay.
This all kind of came to a head and started right around when we first started the podcast. So this was a little over 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And you retired and you're like, dude, get me on that podcast.
I got to do something.
Yeah. And then I remember you came in and like, usually when we stop being competitive, like, and you're kind of maybe in a mental funk, like other things start to happen where you aren't eating as well. You're not burning the calories. And then you're just like, you're kind of like just in that funk and you gain weight and you start to lose all of your fitness. And so I remember when you came on the podcast, you weren't your normal self, you were heavier. And then you went into what you called your Hepler focus. And it was amazing to see the transformation of Lance Hepler over the matter of 2-3 months. You dropped a ton of weight.
I think
your
I
numbers
lost like 60 pounds.
Yeah, your
in
weight
like 3 months.
dropped down. Your numbers went up. Your speed went up, and you were just falling back in love with riding bikes again. So, talk a little bit about that process.
I don't know how to motivate people to do that, and I don't know if I did it in the safest way. It's kind of a slippery slope when you're dealing with.
You don't want to
weight
encourage,
loss. I don't
encourage people to starve themselves.
No, I do not. Yeah. But I mean, I was only eating like 1,500 calories a day or less.
Were you tracking your calories?
Yes.
At the time,
religiously.
At the time, you were not vegan yet. So what were you eating? Like chicken and broccoli or something like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Chicken and broccoli.
Stuff that was filling but not calorie dense, and really not a good way to train either. It did. There's a difference between like trying to lose all the fat that I had accumulated and actually training to be fast. Those are two mutually exclusive things.
Right.
Because you can't really train to be fast without properly fueling yourself. But and you probably could lose the weight if you did it slower than I did. But man, I was so freaking miserable, and I had I mean, mentally, I was just not in a good place at all. I did not feel good about myself. I just felt gross and puffy and just bad about myself, that I couldn't think of anything other than I just need to try to lose this weight as quick as I can. I probably lost a lot of muscle of the way I did it. I don't think I did it very smart. But, you know, since getting that off, I've been able to keep it off for the most part. I gain weight really easy. I can, you know, look at a donut and feel my ass expand. So it's, and that's not, some people's bodies aren't like that. That's just the way my body is. I don't gain muscle quick, but I gain fat really quick. I mean, a lot of my family members are not obese, but they're bigger.
Carrying some extra weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a younger brother who's 150 pounds heavier than me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
This is all amazing too, because your folks were not heavy people.
no,
Yeah.
they're not, but they've had their struggles as well. My
Sure.
mom specifically.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's a whole mental aspect to it, and I don't know if I did it in the healthiest way. I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky, easygoing type of guy.
Let's just say maybe don't do the calorie restrictive diet like you did, but like, you know, find something that's healthy for you. But I want to like kind of try and tap into that focus part, the mental part of like how you were able to do that, because that's not easy to go out and train consistently like that and do all of the other little things like eating perfectly and making sure that you're resting well and making sure that you're like really just keyed into wanting to get back into the shape that you wanted to be in.
You know, I'm a very selfish, glory-seeking individual, and I think the draw for me was, how can I compete at something and be good at it? So it's been a very good thing for my life, and also extremely detrimental that I'm so competition fueled.
Yeah.
You know, it has ruined some relationships that I've had, and it's helped some relationships that I have, and it's part of the reason why I probably or nervously am over talky or happy with people, because I'm trying to like quelch this urge to, I'm gonna freaking crush you in this next
And when that doesn't
race.
pan out, you're in your van up all night because you didn't win a bike race.
Correct. For some stupid bike race that it didn't really matter. I just like, I'm bothered by stuff that I shouldn't be bothered by because of my competitive nature. And it's my competitive nature that allows me to focus on stuff like that. Yeah.
I think, you know, as athletes, you are, one, more vulnerable to setbacks, you know, illness, injury, certainly. You have a certain vulnerability there, but also you have in some ways an advantage in that when you're trying to bounce back, you have you have much more of a sort of a clear goal, something to drive towards, you know, whether that's an event or just an improvement in performance. Like a lot of people will go on a weight loss diet with no other motivation apart from vanity, you know. They don't even,
I want to look good naked.
Don't even think about the health improvements they can get. It's more about looking good, you know.
It helps to have that
and the
on
same
the calendar
thing
that's like
people
working
will
towards.
do cardio workouts, you know, on their Peloton bikes or whatever with no real clear focus, and so not make the kind of gains that we can see being so goal driven. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
I think that having that purpose, that goal, that idea, that plan in place is going to be probably the main thing that you need to start with. Aside from the whole go slow thing, listen to the people that maybe know a little bit better than you, and try not to push, you know, beyond where because you're going to find yourself getting hurt again, or you're going to burn yourself. I don't know, but having that plan really just kind of puts things in perspective, and it helps you kind of like, all right, this is how I'm going to do it. And once you have that in place, that makes all the difference in the world. So for Lance, I mean, he had a plan and he knew that he wanted to get back to a certain station. And, you know, for me personally, what I'm going through right now, it sucks because you know that you just feel like a has-been. You feel like a washed up has-been. And I, you know, for a lot of years, I was at the I was never like a Cat 1 Pro guy. I'm never going to be
Don't
that fast.
sell yourself short, Jake. You're freaking one of the fastest guys in Oprah in every race that you entered.
That's almost a detriment to where I'm at right now, because
understand.
you go back out to try and ride and you're like, yep, those were the glory days. Those were the good old days, And I always joke like, oh, that was Jake version 1.0, and then there was 2.0, and I feel like I'm at 3.0 right now. I'm like,
Dude, you're only 40. How old are you? 49?
49.
49. You're only 49 years old.
That's not young, and I've put my body through some stuff, dude.
That didn't come out right.
I've sprained just about everything. I've broken my back, and I've got rods in my back. I've broken my hip. I got hit by the car and broke a ton of stuff and destroyed my shoulders. Both my shoulders are wrecked. I've got this hip thing now that's problematic, and it's just all like starting to catch up to me. And like I walk around the house like doing the dad grunt all the time, and like, oh, I'm hurting, and my wife's just so tired of me hearing me say like, oh my gosh, this hurts and that hurts, and I just try to shut up now.
I think I've said to you many times, right, that these things are transitory, and it's hard when you're in the depths of your struggles. There, it's hard to accept that. I mean, I struggled with chronic back issues for over 10 years, and to say, well, that was a transitory period, that's kind of glossing it over, but it was. You
didn't seem like it was going to be transitory when you were in the middle of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for a few unfortunate people, you have literally life-changing events that do not ever get better. But for most of us, you will, even though it's hard to see at the time, you will recover those.
So if you were talking to me about this maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 or 10 weeks ago, I'd punch you. But right now, I feel like I see a light. I see a light at the end of the tunnel. That tunnel's still long, and I know that I'm going to work hard to get there. And you want to get back out on the bike and just pick up right where you left off, and it sucks when you can't. I mean, I didn't get to do my back pedal because
I know. Well, I would.
Don't worry
about
that. We'll get to that in a moment. But
the
this is the perfect
inflection is
time.
when you start to see forward progress.
Sure.
When you start to see improvements. That's when the light goes off, and that's when your whole mental attitude can change then, because right, finally I'm on the path. Yeah. And I think that's where you're at.
So
right now.
it was. I had my procedure about a month ago, almost, I guess, about that. But like prior to that, it's just like, oh my god, I feel like I'm in this dark tunnel, and you're losing your self sense of like who you are and what you're all about, and you start to get a little bit like bummed out, and there's a mental aspect to it too. And I was trying to cope by going to the gym, and there were silver linings there, and that was great, but it was terrible being in that funk.
Yes.
And it's so nice to be able to get out there and ride, but getting back on the bike, that's not easy. I've for the most part, I've been off the bike for the better part of 10 months. Very few little attempts to come back, and it was just like womp womp. That's not going to work out for you. And I like Lance, gain weight really easily, but I also gain muscle mass really easy. So going to the gym, I gained some weight there, but I wasn't eating perfect by any means at all. I'm not burning the normal calories, and I got really heavy. Like I stepped on the scale one day and went, holy hell, who is this guy? And yeah, let's start working on this. And I'm like, you know what? Now is probably a pretty good time to start really focusing in on that, knowing that, come summertime, like if I start now, come summertime, I can start to get leaned up, and not like if my hip's feeling better, if this procedure works and I can actually start to ride, it'd be a heck of a lot better to start a lot less heavy than I was at that time. And then knowing that if I can continue on with my strategy there, and then start to pile on some rides and some volume and some calories burned, that it'll all kind of come into a sharper focus much quicker. So, that's for me, that's one of those things too, is like, have kind of an idea of like what's going on with your injury. And if you can, all of the little things that you can address while you're in the moment, while maybe before you're getting back on the bike, start doing those things. Be consistent with those. If it's having a good eating strategy, if it's having, doing all of your supplemental weight training exercises and your physical therapy, and just starting to kind of come up with a plan, maybe put something on the calendar, come up with like a schedule that you can subscribe to that is sustainable, so that once you're ready to start riding, it's all laid out there and you just have to go do it. That's the big thing. And then find some support people that are going to make you stick to it.
It's so easy not to do that, though, right? When you've had a devastating injury and you are in that funk, it's like the easiest thing in the world to just say, I'm screwed.
It's just check out.
Just check out. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, you're making your full recovery even further away.
Yep.
And
so, Jake, you've done a couple rides.
I have. In the past, well, let's see here. I'll
The
say
past week, I feel like has been decent.
We did our Crashiversary ride. So myself and
Yes.
Sean Martin, we did our 6-year Crashiversary ride. We didn't do the actual route because that was like my first proper ride outside, and like I don't think I can do that, but I think I can get on a gravel bike. I'm like, let's just try it. Let's go ride gravel bikes and do this instead. So we kind of did our normal TGNR ride. It worked out pretty well. Sean was, graciously just kind of went at my pace, and we had great conversations. And I ended up riding, I think it was like 26 or 28 miles. I'm like, that was awesome.
That's great.
And then I did the flogging route by myself. So I won. I was the first one to the school. Nobody picked up on that, my Strava thing. But so I did the flogging route, and I just wanted to like go out there. And for me, that was kind of like, all right, let's just like tear off the Band-Aid, because I want to go out and do that ride. I know that I'm not ready for it yet, but I just wanted to see how it felt. And so I went out and did the route, and aside from having to stop and like tweak little things on my bike, because I hadn't ridden my road bike, and I don't even remember the last time I rode it. It was crazy long time ago, but did fine there too. Cramped some a little bit, but for all intents and purposes did fine. And then we did the Tuesday night gravel ride this week, and I went out there, and that one's a hot and heavy ride. That's kind of like the flogging ride on dirt. And we were on Heritage Trail, and you guys have decided to drill it even harder for whatever reason. Matt would probably
poor hikers on Heritage Trail.
I'm like on the back looking down. I'm like, why are we going 18 miles an hour when we're supposed to be warming up? So, but
because freaking Hepler is up there pissing everybody
I'm like,
off.
where's Matt? I need Matt out here to finger wag these guys and tell them to knock it off and slow down. But anyway,
slow down, dialed.
I did fine on the whole way out. I mean, I was not by any means at all like in my normal self. I mean, no joke. I am trying to hold on to the back. I'm like, I feel like I'm throwing down 400 plus 500 watts somewhere. They're trying to look, and I look down. I'm like, oh, it's like 265. I'm like, yep, this is reality.
It's gonna take a minute.
Welcome to my world, Jake.
I honestly think I lost about 100 watts off my FTP, but again, it'll come back in due time. But we got out there and it was great. And then coming back, I started to feel my legs kind of not feeling 100%, and I just started to let people go. And you guys ended up going one way, and I just took a more direct route home. I called my wife. I'm like, hey, can you come pick me up at the boat launch? Because for those of you who don't know where I live, I live on the top of a big hill, and it's about 450 feet of elevation gain in a very short period of time. So it's relatively steep.
One of the steepest hills around.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I have to finish all my rides that way, and my legs were already cramping. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Can you come pick me up? And she's like, oh, I'm going to pick up our daughter. Da, da, da. I'm like, crap. So I ended up just kind of
climbing.
We stopped
climbing very slowly.
We waited at an intersection for quite some time before I finally pulled out my thing. And he's gone a different way. He's not going to.
I was going to text you, but I'm like, those guys aren't going to get their phone text, and they're just flying, and they'll figure it out. So
we figured it out.
Anyway, let's get back on track. I don't need to talk about my.
Well, I know, but I was curious.
Yeah.
And it's very poignant to the subject matter.
And I've done like a Zwift or a couple of Zwift rides, so it's a handful of rides, and then just kind of starting to come into focus. And I'm starting to try and I have a plan. I'm just trying to layer up a little bit each week. So I started the first week with 1 hour, and then it was 2 hours, and then I went up to 4 hours, and this week I'm going to hopefully get up to maybe 5.5 hours. We'll see how that comes around. It should be good.
Well, let me know when you want to ride. I don't have
absolutely.
This week is a mess, but hopefully sometime soon. And then we have rain this weekend, so
on Sunday, and it's supposed to be okay. I don't know. Anyway, let me rifle through some things here. You guys can add to it, and then we don't need to go on to this too much. But we talked about having a plan. Talk about giving yourself time. Like, just understand where you're at and know that you're not going to come back out there and start riding right where you were at when you got hurt. It's going to take time.
Yes.
And if you were off like me for 10 months. It's not going to come back in a week or two. It's probably going to take 3, 4, or 5 months before I start to get some semblance of where I'm at. So anyway, I'm going to put a pin in this for just 1 second. Matt Legrand's going to do his one last thing before he gets out of here. Matt?
Like and subscribe.
You got any videos coming out?
Yeah, I've got videos coming out about cycling computers. So that's a good subject matter for those of you guys that listen to this podcast about cycling.
Anything new?
Well,
I know you
Crew
can't.
3.
Okay.
There are some new things that are that I can't talk about, but
that's always fun to hear.
Yeah,
so.
and interesting and different, which is really cool from a cyclist. So very interested to hear your guys' opinions on this stuff when we're not recording. So
cool.
Talk to you guys in a little bit.
All right, Matt. Take care.
See you, Matt. Yep.
We'll see you next week.
Yes.
All right. Ride smart. Don't like for me this past week when we were doing TGNR.
It would have been easy for you to just try to hang on
Yeah.
as long as possible.
Don't listen to your legs. Who cares if you're cramping? Just keep going, push hard, do all those things, and next thing you know, you're hurt again. So listen to your body, ride smart, and just like know what your abilities are, and don't let your ego get in the way of like your recovery to getting back to where you're at.
I found it very difficult to do group rides because of my ego.
Yeah.
When I was coming back from injury, because I didn't want to show up at the group ride and either just get dropped immediately or shelled, or I'm puking in the ditch somewhere. and that was very hard for me. So there was a time there where I didn't go to any group rides because
I can
my
remember.
ego couldn't
I
take
can
it.
remember being on group rides, and we're going maybe out to the lake or something like that, and you're going one way, we're going the other, and I'm like, oh, it's Hepler, and like I remember you jumped on for a minute. This was way back when.
Yeah.
But you were just out riding by yourself, and you knew full well that there was a team ride going on, but you opted to ride by yourself.
Yeah.
And you know what? I get it.
Yeah.
It's also tough to show up to the group ride when like you show up and you look like you got stung by a bunch of bees and you're like puffy and like overweight and like, man, I got to get a larger jersey. Like for me, like I get a little bit of self-conscious about that, and I don't like to be heavy. So, I'm thankfully back to where I feel all right. But if you would ask me, and when I was at my peak, if I wanted to put on a cycling jersey and go ride, I'd be like, nope, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be the Stay Puft Marshmallow guy on the bicycle. Anyway, Ride Smart was definitely something that I would highly recommend for a lot of folks. Commit to a schedule. We talked about that. Come up with something that's sustainable for you that you can actually follow through and do. And don't get too. Don't be Lance Hepler with your 495 week training schedule of 50 things a week and riding multiple times a day. You don't have to make it be something that's actually sustainable. Make it something that you can know that you can do it. And if you can get a little bit of extra that week, then hey, pat yourself on the back. That's a job well done. Eat well. Just start eating well. That's another big thing because your body's going to thank you. It's going to help you with your recovery process. It's going to help you manage weight, and it's going to help you just do better on the bike so that you can go out there and ride for long periods of time.
That's also a very difficult thing to do because there's this whole emotional aspect to food and eating that can make it difficult for people to eat well when they're eating for comfort and not for fueling. And that's a difficult thing to do
just
properly.
Ask yourself, am I eating to ride or riding to eat?
Yeah.
And so you ask yourself that question, and that'll definitely help you make better decisions.
My thing is am I actually hungry right now? No. I just want to taste the salty snacks and the sweet gummy worms.
For so many people, though, that eating is linked to your emotions, and especially eating poorly is really correlated to a poor state of mental health, right?
Yes.
When you're anxious, when you have low self-esteem, so many people run to the refrigerator.
Yeah,
right?
I could talk about this for days. Like not only running to the refrigerator, but it's just the food choices that we have in general.
Yeah.
And everything being so processed and things that are being put into foods. I think that there's that and smart devices. You put those two things together and you look at the last 15 years, 20 years. That's a big problem for
absolutely.
society.
But when you're in an emotionally
100%
low state, that's when you're most vulnerable to eat poorly.
It's
And
very easy just to say, F it, I'm going to eat this and I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then it starts that spiral too. Like if you start messing around with your insulin levels and you're not hungry, you're just crashing, and you're looking for that next hit to get that insulin level back up and it tastes good. Yeah. It just sucks. Anyway. So Ride Smart, just do it too. Just go out and do it. Don't give yourself excuses. Just go do it. It's very, very few times that I've ever regretted coming back from a ride. I almost did not go to Tuesday Night Gravel Ride because I was like, I'm getting kind of nervous. And even though I knew that I could probably go out there, and even though that I knew that I'm going to get my butt handed to me, I still decided to go. I'm like, all right, what's the worst thing that happens? You ride by yourself. You're still riding your bike.
Yes.
And that's great. And then I went out and did the ride. And even though I came back with some leg cramps, I'm like, that was freaking awesome. When can I do that again?
Yes.
So it's very seldom that I've regretted a ride. I got hit by a car. I mean, the ride itself, I don't regret that. I mean, getting hit by a car, it's not like I should have stayed home that day, but it's even when bad things happen, the ride itself was still great. So it's not very often though that, you regret something like that. So just go to it. You'll thank yourself later. Listen to your body. That's probably the big thing too. And that's where I'm really trying to draw a line in the sand. Like the years passed, and that's probably why I'm at where I'm at, is like, if I just listened to my body and if I just backed off and if I just given myself the proper amount of time to heal, I probably wouldn't have dug myself into that ditch and then have all of the wheels fall off because, I'm trying to be competitive, and it's an ego-driven thing. Like, even though it's not even a sanctioned bike race, we do these race-paced rides, and you still want to go out there and perform well because that's just like, that's the badge of honor that you want to wear. And you want to go out there and like show people who's boss and go out there and have fun. And it's fun. It's not trying to show people up. It's just fun to go out there and race bikes with your friends. I should have just taken time off. I should have done a little bit of physical therapy. I should have listened to my body, and I didn't. And I pushed through that, and that was the wrong decision. So the last thing I'm going to throw out there real quick is, when you're done, we have all of these great meters. Check your numbers. Start to look at things and see how they're coming together. You can look at like trends over course of time. You can look at your left-right power number balances if you're having issues with like your lower body, to see a little bit about like, all right, why is this so out of whack? Or why is my heart rate here and my watts are down there? That was another thing too. It's like there's like this like cataclysm. Like my heart rate was higher than my watts on the flogging ride. I'm like, this is dumb. But anyway, I've rambled on enough. Anything else?
You have to. So many people think that I've lost all my fitness, and that's not true. You, as an athlete, you don't lose everything. You, especially that sort of lower level core aerobic fitness. Even after 10 months, you're still in a better position than your sedentary peers when it comes to getting back into shape. It'll take you less time than if you had never been that athlete to begin with. And you over time you go through a period of detraining. You're going to lose some fitness, but you have made permanent changes to your body doing this exercise.
Sure.
You have more mitochondria in your muscles. You have a better performing cardiovascular system. Those things don't go away.
Yeah.
Gradually they'll go down to a lower level, but you're not going to lose it all. You have to remember that.
Yeah, I think another thing too is what the process is like. You know how to suffer, you know how to push, and you know when to back off, and you know how to train. So all of those things are going to experience. Exactly. It's going to bode well for you. You guys got anything else that you want to add to this? Tips for other people that might be dealing with some crap?
I think one of the concepts that I think we've all danced around it here a little bit, but the concept of delayed gratification is exactly what this whole process is about. It's not I need something right now. I want to be rewarded for it right now. In order to improve your health, you have to delay some gratification. It's not eating that cupcake for, being able to be a bit thinner. It's putting in the work, which hurts a lot more now, for it not to hurt as much in the future, or to hurt the same, but you just go faster. So, the concept of delayed gratification is and patience with that kind of stuff is, I think, important concepts with all this stuff.
It's amazing though, because if you just subscribe to that and then maybe even keep a journal or just keep tabs of this stuff, it's amazing how fast time goes by. And like all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's been 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks. And look how much progress I've made, as opposed to, making stupid choices left and right. And you're just not able to put together a good string of like training and habits. And it's just, I don't know, it's amazing how quickly that goes by and how good it feels when you stay on target.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. With one other thing, one last thing that I'll throw out there too. Like if you did get hurt and let's say that you're doing rehab, or let's say that, it wasn't a crash, or maybe just broke down, whatever, there's a good chance that you had to go to physical therapy, or there's some sort of therapeutic exercises. Just because you're back on the bike doesn't mean that it's time to stop those. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, you probably want to just keep doing them for a good long time, if not forever. Like subscribe to some sort of like maintenance training, supplemental training program that's going to help you stay fit on the bike. It's a very linear sport. It's something that can cause you to break down just riding and not crashing. So make sure that you're doing all of the little things off the bike that are going to support you being, healthy, fit, and, injury-free. Injury prevention stuff.
Yes.
So cool. All right. We've talked about that way too much.
It's a good topic.
Let's jump into one last thing. Who wants to go first since Matt already went?
Well,
Ian's going to go.
my one last thing is just to give a big shout out to a couple of my athletes. Milo, who is one of our top dial juniors.
Dude.
He
freaking
won
crushing
his
it.
race at PIR. He won the juniors race, came in first in. Well, I saw the video of the finishing sprint. It was awesome. He came third, I think, or fourth in the Cat 4s. Anyway, excellent work, Milo. Big shout out to Dan Beal and Jin, who were in last weekend's state championship road race down there in Eugene. Dan went out and gave it everything he had, even though the course just was not suited to his particular talents, and he hung in there, and his power numbers were amazing. Jin predictably did so well. I think he was a top 5 finish there. So great work to those guys. And also a big shout out to Tim Dorman, who, fitting in with this topic that we've just been talking about, has just been bouncing back from knee surgery, and he's been given the green light by his physiotherapist, our very own Evan Price, to get back on and begin his journey again. And he was injured after putting in so much work, and right at the beginning of race season, it all got taken away from him. And he's still got a great attitude. He's still he's back on his bike now, and he's training again.
Yeah.
So big shout out to all of those guys.
Fantastic.
Also Don and all kinds of people that are dealing with whatever life can throw in the way of work and family obligations and so on, and keeping with the program and keeping going. It's very inspiring.
Yep. Cool. Hepler.
There is racing this weekend. There's a mountain bike race called the Alpine Epic. It's part of the series that I've been doing. At this moment, I don't think I'm going to it.
Is this part of the series that you need points to win the thing? Do you have it locked down already?
I do not have it locked down.
You better get out there.
So the course does not favor me very much either. It's like an 11-mile climb and then like a 10-mile descent, something like that.
Yep.
It's down in Oak Ridge, Oregon, with some classic, great single track. But I'm not sure I'm going to go.
Hey, Lance, keep talking for a minute. I'm going to go use the restroom.
Okay, I'm trying to listen to my body, because I buried myself pretty badly at Kansas. I was trying very hard to do well, and so I'm not feeling all that good. And then the week in Moab, things just kind of got worse for me physically. So,
I mean, I'm not in that lower state, physically, but I feel like my race legs are really not there. And I was the same. There was this race last weekend, the state championships. I've never missed one of those.
yeah, I was surprised you
And
didn't go.
I just could not face it. I'm like, I don't have the fitness. My fitness is in the toilet right now. It's going to be such a sufferfest. I couldn't face it. Because I've ridden that course before, and it's hard, right? And there's a lot of hitters out there
There's
on
a
that
lot.
day. So, like I said,
It wasn't super well attended, but it.
I don't know. Wasn't
Yeah, it was. There were people there, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. We had way more people at Barton Park than we did at the state
I
championships.
feel bad for now. I know what all goes into
How hard it
making
is.
those events
Yeah.
happen. It's such a shame when people just don't show. And then state championships, come on.
Yeah, you'd think more people would go, but
But then I'm guilty myself.
right.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, so we have some teammates going to this race and going to do it. This Alpine Epic mountain bike race. I'm kind of battling Todd Edwards, our local teammate, for the win in our category. So I'm fully expecting him to go down there and win this race. So,
And you, for sure you're not going?
I have to make that decision today, but I don't think I should. I think.
Are you buried that deep right now?
Yeah, man, I have not felt good.
I thought you felt pretty good at the ride on Tuesday.
Oh, dude, I set like PR, like power PRs.
So I assume,
Tuesday.
I
Really?
assume you're not flogging tonight then.
I'm probably going to go flogging anyway.
Ah,
If I show up, you can ride in the D group with me.
That might be nice, actually.
Yeah.
I'll join you.
Go out there and talk some crap.
So, yeah.
No, I'm slower. No, I'm slower.
So I don't know what happened Tuesday night, but my legs just felt fantastic. I probably should go do this race, but
You probably should.
I don't want to, which is odd for me.
And is that
So-
the last race of the whole
No,
series?
there's one more.
Okay, so if you don't go to this one and you go to the last one, is it still a possible chance for you to lock the whole thing down?
Yeah, it actually it would create a showdown, which would be fantastic for the
Then
last
do that.
race.
Do that. That'll be more fun. That makes for a
Because
better story too.
What I'm expecting is Todd Edwards will probably win the race on Saturday, which would make us tied on points.
Doggy.
So he would have 2 wins in a second, and I would have 2 wins in a second, and it's your best 3 races.
Mm-hmm.
So then it would come down to last race. So that could be kind of exciting.
That could be a lot of fun.
How's it looking for your bid for the Masters Bar this year?
So far, I'm still leading, but I've done more categories than anybody else, so it's hard to tell if I'm really, really leading or not.
There's not too much left though on the calendar until we get to cross season,
That's true.
and you'll
Well-
do the vast majority of those.
I can do-
Baker City, if you go to
Oh.
Baker City, you get time trial points, you get crit points, and you get road race points.
Okay.
So,
So I've considered that. That starts a week from tomorrow.
yes.
So Baker City does.
That soon?
It is.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
I could use those points in those categories, but it won't move me up significantly enough. I don't think to make a difference. Plus, I am doing the Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder this year, and that would start. Baker City would finish on Sunday, and Oregon Trail starts on Tuesday, and that's a 5-day gravel stage race.
That does not count towards bar.
It does not count towards bar. Oregon Trail does not. It is not. It's the one race Chad Sperry is doing this year that is not OBRA. It's not an OBRA sanctioned race. So, and I really want to do Oregon Trail, and that's going to be a blast. And well, I don't know.
Cool.
That's enough, Jake.
My one last thing is, I guess I just kind of want to apologize for us missing the past 2 weeks. It's like one of those things that we always like wore the badge of honor of, like, we come out with a podcast every single week.
Right.
It was just one of those things where life happened, and Lance was out of town, Ian was out of town, Matt was swamped and driving his kids all over the place. I was not out of town, but during that 2 weeks, I was joking with Lance at our ride the other night. I'm like, Lance, how long were you gone? He's like, 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, it felt like you were gone for 5 minutes. I literally felt like he was gone for a day.
Been swamped.
I was so busy. We just rolled out a brand new website that I've been feverishly working on for quite some time now, and kicked into hyperdrive over the last 2 weeks just because we needed to get this thing up and running. So I've had that going on. My daughter graduated from high school, and that's been fantastic for her. But the thing is like, she did extremely well. She graduated summa cum laude. So basically in like the top 0.5% of her class, you have to have a GPA between 3.9 and 4.0. That's the highest GPA you can have because they don't do the AP weighted stuff. But anyway, so she's going to all these award ceremonies and has different things going on. And we had to go to those things. I want to be present to that. So family comes first, and
You can't miss that stuff.
no, and just a million things going on plus normal life. I'm like, how I can't even figure out how to figure out when I'm going to do this, let alone get all the stray cats here together. So it was just one of those moments where, hey, life happened and we missed a little bit of time. However, Tour de France is coming up pretty soon, and we generally like to come out with some extra podcasts, so we'll make it up to you.
We're gonna dig in at the Tour de France.
Yeah, because it's
Am I in town that month? Yes, I'm in town all month of July.
oh wow. So anyway, apologies for not putting anything out there, but we're back and we're going to try and keep it regular again. And the website's up. That part's good.
Yes.
And daughter's graduated. That part's good.
Yes.
We will be making podcasts for all of you lovely people. So,
Yep.
anything else, guys?
That's good.
Cool. Let's press end on this guy. We do appreciate everybody listening. We will be back with another one of these next week. And until then, bye for now.
I'm just saying, sometimes you get a knock on the head, you get
Right.
special powers. It happens all the time. Read a comic book, okay?